Hello, and in this week's episodes, first is Exile, where Cal is going straight GTA in Metropolis until Jonathan leaves the smackdown. Lex is presumed dead, but is just cast away. Then, in Phoenix, Clark must decide whether he wants to stay or leave. Lex returns and tries to uncover the truth. This is the Smallville Chronicles. Hello, everybody. I'm one of your co-hosts, Luke Gonzalez. Joining me, as always, is Alan Muir.
God, I've been waiting to get back to this season.
Yeah, season 3 is like, especially how it starts off, is such a departure, and it works out
from season 1 and then season 2.
Yeah,
people have said that season 3 is the weakest season, but they clearly have not seen season 8. Nothing against Sam Witwer.
Yeah,
and the great stuff he's doing right now in Supergirl.
Yeah, but these first two episodes are a two-parter, so they're directly follow each other from the end of the first one right into the second one. So we catch up to the show 3 months after the previous episode, and Cal is running around Metropolis wearing the red kryptonite glass ring, going by the name of Cal. We see him, he eyeballs this Lamborghini.
Well, first we get the bad music.
Oh god, yeah. What was the first song? Was it The Good Charlotte?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so it starts off with Girls and Boys, which is maybe one of the better songs that are in this episode.
Yeah, it's that to him, just punching out ATM screens and reaching in and stealing them the money.
Yeah. Then he goes back to the...
He goes into a sports car dealership and asks, "Hey, how much is this car?" And the lady's like, "If you have to ask, you can't afford it." And he just unzips a bag, shows her the money. She goes with him to the club. God, this is great.
Yeah, and then the club is where we get our second, awesome, terrible early 2000s song, which is the Black Eyed Peas. What song is it? It is Hey Mama. It's one of their early singles. So basically they have this, they're flirting with each other, they're hooking up, then she touches his chest and she asks him about the scar, and he forcibly grabs her wrist and is like, "Don't touch that." And she basically calls him a jerk and goes off.
Which according to the bartender, happens a lot.
He basically says every night.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, what's the matter? Do you just are you a priest or something? You come in with the hottest girls and you leave by yourself." And he's just "I'm just waiting for the right one." Then as as Cal leaves, he goes outside and he starts to get into crazy pain. He runs into a phone book, rips open his shirt, and the
phone booth. Said phone book.
Oh, phone booth. And rips open his shirt, and the scar is glowing.
And he has to take the class ring off.
Yeah, and then it stops burning him. And in that moment where he has it off, he decides to call the house. Martha answers the phone, and knowing that it's Clark, even though she can't hear anything, pleads for him to come back home. And right before he can do anything, when he looks like he's about to cry, he hangs up and puts the ring back on. So the other thing I wanted to note was his hair in these two episodes.
Much longer.
Yeah, it's not quite the 90s Superman mullet, but it's not too far off.
Yeah, it's getting close.
It's very moppy. It's very 90s, early 2000s, kind of pop grunge, long, unkempt hair.
This is gonna make... Okay, you know how in the comics, or at a certain point, at a certain time in the comics, Superman had the S curl in his on the top of his head?
Yes.
He has a sort of similar thing in the back of his head, or in the back of it, like back of his head hair or hair.
Well, yeah, his hair is like very curly. So he almost has like a 70s kind of blowout look.
Yeah, and to go back to the scar, or as he called it, a birthmark. It's clearly from the end when at the end of the season 2 finale when as he's leaving, you hear Jarrell say, "You will obey me."
I think isn't there like a moment in the episode, the finale, where I think it actually like the ship when it's like the orb actually does that to him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the next day he gets up and there's a robbery at a Metropolis bank with a bunch of dudes in clown masks robbing it. Then a motorcycle crashes through the window. Underneath the ski mask, and it's obviously Cal. I will refer to him during this as Cal until like we see the switch. He takes apart everybody. He takes like a bunch of bullets, beats the crap out of everybody, then walks outside and there's all the cops. We see Captain Maggie Sawyer.
You're leaving out the best part. He doesn't return the money. He takes the money that they were taking.
Yeah. He walks out with the money. There is one cool scene. So there's him dodging the bullets, and then he catches one, and the guy looks and he's not there anymore. And then he like taps him on the shoulder and like drops the bullet, and then it's like I think he punches the guy. Yeah. Then he goes outside. All the cops start firing on him, which he's standing in front of a bank. So like the bullets that aren't hitting him are like then going into the bank.
Yeah, so one that hurt people that like the hostages.
Yes. Well, there's a bunch of problems because there's like apparently cameras don't exist in this world, like security cameras.
Yeah.
ATMs have had cameras on them for forever. But yeah, we see Captain Sawyer, who we haven't seen since the episode where Martha and Lionel.
When they get taken hostage after Lex tries to scheme.
Yes. So to get out of this, Clark heat visions one of the cop patrolling vehicles. It blows up, and then he's gone with the money. And then we cut from here and then Maggie Sawyer picks up the ski mask that has bullet holes through it. Now from here, we go back to the Kent farm. Pete is talking to Jonathan and Martha, and we see the Daily Planet front page, and they're like, Pete's like, this is obviously Clark, and he's doing this, and everything is escalating.
And it's only going to get worse.
And Jonathan's like, I'm going to go and stop him. And Martha's like, you don't know what he'll do with the red kryptonite. Like, he might even hurt you. And Jonathan just like, crap.
Yeah, right? She says that he went to Metropolis. He doesn't want to be found.
And I think this is also where she mentions, like, he called the other day. Like, he's like, something is like changing.
Yeah.
Because that appears to be like the first time he's called. And then we cut to the Talon where Chloe sees Lana. They have not been talking during the summer. And then we get all the reveals because this is like, I guess it's supposed to be the end of summer vacation, this episode.
Yeah.
So Lana basically is never at home because she's been living with Chloe. Chloe's been working in Metropolis because of her deal with Lionel. And basically says that she's going to go to Lex's funeral with the Kents and not with Chloe and her dad, which again teases the fact that the last time we saw Lex was him waking up and there was nobody in the plane and it was nosediving into the ocean.
Yeah.
So she tells Lana that like he made a conscious decision to run away and that she should kind of give up on it. And I think this is where Lana tells her that she loves him, that she loves Clark.
Yeah.
And they basically have this conversation, and Chloe's kind of like, yeah, well, I know what it's like to like have your heart broken by him. Which is this entire conversation is very different once you find out kind of what Chloe knows. Because it's like, wow, Chloe's kind of being a shit if you look at it a certain, like, once you find out the information. Like, it seems like she's trying to be nice. But when you find out the truth behind it, it's like, oh, she's kind of being a dick to Lana here. Like, telling her to move on. In many ways. I'm not sure. Did you think about it that way, or did you not even?
Chloe was being, Chloe was just being very bitchy.
Yeah, she's being very shady and like weird in this episode. So from here we have
Don't we go to Lex on the island, or is that after
no.
the funeral?
The next thing we go to is the penthouse, and there's a bed, and two guys come in. They open fire on the bed.
Oh,
and then,
the guy, also the ginger with the Irish ginger with the face tattoos.
oh my god, I didn't notice the face tattoos till like way further along, and I was like, I'm like, that has to be real because it's so bad. I'm like, if that's
there's no way that could be CG.
Well, like if they or like an effect, like or they like makeup did it, because it's just like it's so terrible. But I guess it gets them a lot of work, but like it's terrible looking. So these guys, Cal gets up, takes them out, and as he goes into the other room, he is greeted by Morgan Edge. So Morgan Edge is played by Rutger Hauer in this episode, and
of True Blood fame.
yeah, Rutger Hauer has done many more things than True Blood.
Hey, he was the Great Fairy.
So, do you want to give a little character background on Morgan Edge? Like, I mostly know him from the later stuff, and like I think he was in the cartoon at some point, wasn't he?
The Superman, the animated series.
Yeah. So, but like as far as I know, he's kind of just like this gangster. And is he like connected to Intergang?
Yeah, he's connected to Intergang, Superman Revenge Squad, and Galaxy Communications.
Yeah, so he's like I don't know how to describe this. Like, if Lex is like white collar, like criminal, he's like a step below that.
Yeah, he was actually created in 1970 by the King, Jack Kirby.
Okay, cool. I'm trying to think how I would describe him. Like, he's kind of like the Penguin in many ways, I would say. Like, he's like has that underground criminal connection, but he has like this weird, like not so like so obviously not legitimate front. But he will play heavily, like him in this show plays heavily into the story of the season. This character specifically.
Yeah, and there was the failed reboot version of Morgan Edge in New 52 where he was bald, black, he had a goatee. He was the owner of the Daily Planet.
Oh yes, I remember that. And he was like tanking the newspaper.
Yeah, he
Yeah, he like bought the Daily Planet from Lex, I think.
No, that it actually before Rebirth in last issue of the Justice League series, there's just a little mention that Lex bought the Daily Planet from him.
Yeah, they just don't know what to do with that character because he doesn't make sense in many ways to be a Superman antagonist because he's like kind of too low rent.
Yeah, and he did come back to live action in the bad season of Supergirl.
I don't even remember. Is that season 3?
Yeah.
Okay, I watched like half of that season, so I don't even remember.
He's played by Nathan Petrelli from Heroes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was actually a really good version.
I thought I knew that character in that show, but I guess. Oh, you know what? I remember him because he was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for a while.
Yeah, Glenn
That's
Talbot.
what I'm thinking. Yeah. All right, I'll have to like look at that. But yeah, but Morgan Edge is an interesting character in this show. This show's probably done the most for the character than anything else. And he's only involved in this one season. So from here, basically, Edge gives Clark an offer of like, you know, you're hanging out at my bar last night, and then you interrupted my guys at the bank robbery. I don't think it's a coincidence. And Cal's just like, oh, whatever. And he's like, well, if you're ever want to move up to the big league, from doing these dumb things, get a hold of me and I can find some real amazing work for you. And he also says, like, I wanted to hear if the rumors are true, kind of a thing. Because Clark is apparently or Cal is not shy about just running around, letting people just shoot him and stare at them.
Yeah. And holy shit, in Lois and Clark: The New Adventures of Superman, there was a mash, or a mixture of him and Bruno Mannheim, character called Bill Church Jr., played by Bruce fucking Campbell.
Oh wow. The only character I remember in The Adventures of Lois and Clark is the dude who was just a head on a box.
What the hell?
Yeah, I will have to find it and send it to you. There's a guy in that show who is just his body was so ravaged, but he's a genius.
I'm in awe. I mean, I don't know how to process that.
Yeah, let me try to find a picture. Oh man. All right, I will have to find it later because I don't remember. I don't remember the character's name or what season. All I remember. All right, well, I'll have to find it later. So back to the show. This is where we find Chloe's meeting Lionel in the Kawachi Caves. He is basically like, your thing on Clark is there's nothing in it. And she's like, well, he left. And he kind of grills her about whether or not she knows where he went. And he also brings up the fact that the octagonal spot in the wall is now gone. And basically threatens her that if he doesn't get any new information, then her opportunities will disappear.
Yeah.
And now this is where we cut to see where Lex is. So Lex, we cut to him basically an overhead view where he's shirtless on a beach, cut up in cut, bruised, blistered, sunburnt.
With malaria.
Yeah, well, they say that, and I guess we end up figuring that out later on, but we don't know that. Or no, the character Lewis is basically oh, you passed out again from malaria.
Yeah, the character Lewis, played by Ryan Robbins, who was on Arrow as Conklin. This was during season 4 when they were trying to do Damien Dark.
Oh, I don't even remember this yet. I'll have to wait and see.
Do you remember the John Constantine episode?
Of this show?
No, of Arrow.
Oh, yeah.
Remember when he takes the work, takes a tattoo that he has on him?
Oh, yeah, and puts it onto Oliver?
Yeah, okay, I'm going to spoil it a little bit. Arrow. Conklin dies, or gets killed by Baron Ryder. And Conklin is about to kill Oliver and the girl who...
Oh, okay, I remember this part. The guy that ends up having the totem on the island, the military guy. That's Conklin?
No, Conklin was under him in terms of
Okay.
Yeah, in terms of rank and everything. And
I remember him.
Yeah, he was also in the Mortal Kombat Legacy web series where he played Raiden. It's actually probably one of the best depictions of Raiden, and Ed Boon had nothing to do with it. Yeah, Ryan Robbins has done a lot of stuff. He was on Sanctuary. He was on Stargate Atlantis.
Well, he does a really good job in this episode. So basically, Lewis is another person. His name is Lewis Leary. And it is, I feel like it's pretty obvious early on, but I still think they do a good job of, so he's the only other person on the island. Every part of his story is a mirror of Lex. And he's basically telling Lex this entire time, you shouldn't leave. This is paradise. You know that she's the one that set you up. And Lex is like, don't say Helen's name. She's like, or it could have been your father. Like, that's what they do. And is like, why do you want to go back to that world? Like, everybody's evil there. Here is simple.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to just say this quote, Lex, even though it's from the second episode. Or when his reunion, like him and Clark reuniting, his saying that even when I was alone, I still managed to find an enemy.
Exactly. So we basically get like this really cool scene of like Lex is eating bugs.
He's eating maggots.
Yes. And then a plane goes overhead. He tries to signal, but Lewis didn't do anything. He basically loses his shit on Lewis. And Lewis is basically like, you need to accept that you're like stuck here. Like, they're never going to see your fire. And then we directly cut from here to Lionel giving a speech at Lex's funeral.
And Dr. Bryce
she kind of crashes it in a way.
Yeah.
And Lionel, not that she's crashing it, she is married to Lex. But
Lionel he's so not taking her shit.
Yeah, he's like, oh, you could have waited to play the grieving widow. And he's like, I won't let you ruin the thing. And he literally walks off. We see Lana with the Kents. I believe we see Chloe there as well. And then Lana turns and sees
Clark
in the background. And during all this, we hear Helen's telling
her
of the story. Yes. Which is, all of the stories are ridiculous, but basically the story is that
there's 3 stories.
Yeah. So this first one is Helen wakes up. She had only taken a sip of her champagne while Lex drank the whole glass. The pilot was gone, as was the money. I don't know what money they had on them was gone. And there was
valuables they had were gone.
Yeah. She tries to wake Lex. He won't wake up. And she freaks out. Oh, no. I'm sorry.
No, Lex,
there's only one parachute, and Lex gives it to her.
And basically pushes her out.
And goes down with the plane. So I was mixing it up with the second story. And basically, and then we cut back to Lana sees Clark. She tries to find him. And I believe this is when we see Chloe shows up at Clark's penthouse apartment and tries to get Clark to come home. He flips the fuck out on her. He goes nuts, so screaming in her face.
Yeah. I've been watching every time, whenever I upload any of the LPs I've been doing lately on the Losaro Games YouTube channel. Subscribe, by the way.
Nice plug.
I don't know why, I don't know how, but all the recommended for you videos are Smallville stuff. Cons, that Welling and Rosenbaum did. And Welling mentioned that, I think it was either he mentioned it or someone else mentioned that and it was like, and he agreed that, or he liked doing the different takes or the different effects the Kryptonite had on him.
Oh yeah, well, it lets him play. It's kind of like his version of Kavanaugh as Wells. Although in this, it's only like one episode that they'll do, 1 or 2 episodes. But yeah, he does lose his shit in this because he starts to feel the pain. So he doesn't want her to see that, and that's why he like yells at her to get out. And the second she gets out, he rips open his shirt again, and
the scar starts.
It's like glowing and burning.
Yeah, and he has to take the ring off. And he first, or 2 things. Chloe mentions that if you're done with Smallville, or if you're never coming back to Smallville, why are you still wearing the class ring? Which I didn't. I enjoyed that someone that no one normally they wouldn't mention that small detail. And he threatens that if she comes back, he'll run away far to some place where he can never be found.
Yeah, it definitely was like a good call that she's like noticing him doing that, and he has to like explain it away. And then I believe, let's see. So he takes off the ring, and then without this, we see Clark is now in the loft, and he overhears his parents because they are losing the farm, and they are packing up a truck with all their stuff, and we get a really like devastating story about like that they were talking about, where
about how when they found out that Martha couldn't have children.
Yes. Well, they don't specifically say Martha; they say that they couldn't have children.
Oh yeah.
But I believe later on, it's definitely like that she couldn't have children.
Yeah, basing it off last season and what the ship, how she said it's impossible.
Mm-hmm. And they also say that they are going to move into the apartment above the Talon, and that they're going to store all their stuff at Pete's parents' storage unit or barn or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then basically Martha hears like
she hears sounds from where Clark would usually be.
Yes. And they run up there
and find the family photo on the ground. And then Martha tries yelling out for Clark to come home.
But he's already gone.
Yeah.
So the next thing we have is when at the Talon again, and Chloe basically comes clean that she knows where Clark is, and that she's known for she's known like for
months.
For like since the jump, because it's been 3 months, and she says she like found out after a couple weeks.
Yeah, she said that she was at a party, or that her and the other interns went out to a nightclub, and she saw Clark there. And somehow he told her, she said she followed him back, and she said she won't tell anyone.
Yeah, because the impetus for all this is that Lana was going to said that she saw him at the funeral and was going to go hang up flyers.
Yeah, missing posters.
Yeah, Lana like loses her shit on Chloe,
which is very just.
Yes. And Chloe's like, well, it's not like you didn't lie to me. And she's like, I said you were sorry over and over again. And Chloe's like, so why can't we just call this even? And she's like, because you knew, like, everybody's been looking for him and been so worried, like his parents. And this is where she says, like, oh, I was afraid that, like, he basically told me that if I told anyone that he would go somewhere where nobody could find him. And she was like, I just wanted to be like a tether for him. And that she also liked being somebody he could confide in.
Yeah.
And then basically he's like, do you want me to take you there? And she's like, no, I think you've done enough. You can just give me the address.
And I don't know if it was the Wonder Woman pilot but I was rewatching it. Like I watched it last week, or these 2 episodes last week. So I started watching them again earlier, and man, was it made it even better.
Oh yeah, these episodes are really good. There are some like poor effects in some spots, but otherwise they are fine. Like there are poor effects in 2019, but like for the time they are fine. So Lana shows up to the apartment. She sees Clark outside on the motorcycle, and he's like, "Well, I'm actually glad that you're here." She says that she's not going to let him go this time, and he tells her to get on.
Yeah, and they go to the nightclub.
No, this is where we jump back to Lex.
Oh yeah,
So Lex,
this is a scene where he almost gets killed by Lewis.
yeah, so he's using the compass Jonathan gave him, and he finds a body. He's drinking water, and he finds a body floating in it with a necklace with LL on it.
Which he thinks, or
Well,
which he.
It's pretty obvious that like when everything is kind of figured out that it's LL for Lionel Luthor, but Lewis appears and basically says like, I killed him, only one of us could have survived, it was me or him. And basically Lewis, like, Lex calls him a psycho, and Lewis starts chasing Lex through the jungle and is like,
with the machete.
yeah, I know like every inch of this island. And then Lex is kind of hiding. Then we cut to the club.
Yeah.
And they're in there. Lana's like super uncomfortable. And then
the bartender calls Clark Cal, and Lana's saying, since when did you go by, have you been going by Cal?
Yeah, and he says, oh, it's my secret identity. And then this is where they make out for a second, and then Lana walks away says she's going to the bathroom, and then she calls Jonathan and like tells him about it. But then he tells her like if he starts acting weird to just leave him, he'll figure it out.
But that doesn't happen.
No, Clark walks in on her, walks over and sees that she's on the phone, takes the phone from her, and is like, "Oh, hi, Jonathan. Like, leave me alone. I don't want to see you. Like, go away. You're not my real parents. You're probably like
better off without me."
Yeah, and happier.
And Twitch Martha says, or no, he also mentions the baby.
Yes.
And Martha says, we'd never be mad at you if it wasn't your fault.
Yeah, and Lana basically like freaks out and leaves. Or I think actually she like gets weirded out. Clark like says that she betrayed him, and if she loved him, she wouldn't have done that. And this is when, so while this is going on simultaneously, Jonathan goes to the garage or the barn, and he takes out the key.
And goes to the cave.
Yes. At the same time, Clark goes to Morgan Edge, and this is where we find out that he wants him to steal something from Lionel's vault.
Yeah, he gives him a card, and Clark, or Cal, whatever, he chuckles and says, Luthor Corp Plaza.
He's like, oh, it'll be my pleasure.
Yeah.
And then we cut back to the island. Now this episode like picks up and is awesome from this point. So we go back to the island. Lex and Lewis are fighting. Lex gets the machete, ends up hacking Lewis. Like we see like kind of up from the sand, like Lex is just like hacking at the sand. And then we hear like a kind of Caribbean voice say like, hey man, are you okay? And he turns around and looks, and it's like I had to do it. It was me or him. The guy's like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I had to kill him. He's like, kill who? It's just the two of us here. And Lex turns around and it's just like a pile of seaweed or like some sort of plant debris on the ground. And he's like looking through it. And then he's like, hey man, me and my captain saw like your fire from like our ship. And he's like, don't worry about it, man. These islands are like evil and they play tricks on your mind. And then so we leave that, but it's a really intense scene, especially when like Rosenbaum does a great job with his like frenzied, like he's like scared and also like insane at the same time. But he has also been alone on an island for 3 months. So then we cut to Jonathan at the Kawachi Caves, and he can't find the keyhole. He starts freaking out and like yelling at it. He's like, it was too early. He wasn't ready for it. And then he smashes the key into the wall, and then it drops it to the ground, and then it starts to glow. And then he is addressed by it, like flies up and then goes into the wall. And there's like the light show happening, just like it did with Dr. Glasses. And then we get entered into like a mindscape. Like, I don't know, how else would you describe it? Because it's all taking place like in Jonathan's head, right?
Yeah, well, a similar thing happens in the series finale, where it's sort of in his head also. Basically, him and Jor-El conversing. Jonathan mentions that you need to bring him back, and Jor-El says, that is your job. Jonathan also mentions that he's the one who raised him. It's his son.
Yeah, and Jor-El says like he doesn't need you for this part of his journey.
Yeah.
It is a very interesting, like, where it's like father on father. And basically it ends with Jor-El saying like, if you want to bring him back, like, are you willing to sacrifice anything? And Jonathan says, I would sacrifice anything to save my son. Yeah, there are a couple like great lines, because the first one is like, I am Jor-El, the true father of Kal-El. And Jonathan says, his name is Clark Kent. I am his father. I raised him. So this is like a great scene. And then I believe we cut to the line, Clark breaking into the safe. He opens it, he grabs the it's like a little silver box, and turns around and Jonathan is there. And then they basically have a fight through the building. Like, or no, Clark punches him and he goes flying into the wall, breaking this like the cement. And then Jonathan gets up and Clark's like, or I guess Cal's like, oh shit. And it's like, oh, what happened to you? And he's like, me and your biological father had like a talk. And he's like, oh, of course the two of you would get along so well because you both just want to tell me what to do. And then they like slam each other. I'm trying to remember how it works. I think Clark throws a punch at Jonathan, who like sidesteps it and like judo tosses him through the floor.
Yeah, they end up going through into like the bowels of the building.
Yeah. Oh, and then they end up throwing. They get thrown. Okay, they get thrown out of the building, and then they fall through the ground, 60 stories below, and like go through the street, and like land in the kind of bowels of the tower, like the kind of sewer and electrical system.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have a fight here. Jonathan like throws Clark at some point, and a bunch of like scaffolding falls on him. Clark gets up and he goes to punch Jonathan, or he has Jonathan pinned, and Jonathan's like, if you're gonna do it, do it. I didn't raise my son to be a killer, so if you're going to kill, like, do it now.
And Clark punches the steel beam and breaks the class ring, or the red kryptonite ring. And that's where the episode ends. Or does it?
We actually we actually jumped already into the next episode. So the episode ends when they are falling out of the window.
And with a to be continued.
Yes, and it immediately picks up with this fight. Jonathan sees the scar on Clark's chest. He's like freaking out about like
he did this to you.
Yeah, because it first starts off where like Kyle takes off the jacket. Then after the scaffolding falls on him, he rips off his shirt, and then you see the scar. The scar actually starts glowing, and then he punches the wall and it shatters. So that whole fight sequence crosses the episodes.
And then the scar disappears.
Yes, the scar disappears. Jonathan passes out, and you kind of see like some sort of essence leave him, I think.
Which was the powers that Jor-El gave him.
Yes. And then they arrive home. Clark and Jonathan arrive at home. Martha runs into him, and he apologizes for everything. Jonathan collapses, and they're like, "What did you do?" And that whatever Jor-El did to him was too much for his body to handle. Then we get the awesome scene, which one of my favorite scenes was Lionel's on the phone with somebody talking about the stolen package. The place is totally like messed up, and then we see a hooded figure approach from behind him, and who I wish I could remember the line that he says, but basically, like Lex reveals himself, or he says something like the prodigal son has returned, and Lionel like turns off his phone and it's like, "Oh my God, Lex!" And then Lex pulls out a gun on him. And they basically have this conversation, and Lionel's like, what would I gain from doing this? It was your wife. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, where is Helen? What'd you do to her? He's like, do to her? She's in the mansion, living the life of luxury. And he basically informs Lex of the story that she told. And he's like, I never really thought it made sense. I had people searching half the earth for you. And Lex says, well, they were searching the wrong half.
Okay, I found the quote, or what Lex says.
Okay.
So it's him in the shadows. Abraham threw Isaac on the pyre to prove his faith to God. What was your excuse, Dad? He reveals himself.
It's
Lex.
such a good...
He pulls out a gun, disappointed I'm not basking in the hot fires of hell. Lex, sorry I screwed up your plan.
Yeah, it's so good. And then Lionel tells Lex, why don't you ask her what she did with that vial of blood after you returned it to her? And then we go from here to the Kawachi Cave with Clark and Jonathan. And this is where Jonathan reveals that he made a deal with Jor-El to get Clark back and that he would do whatever. And this is where Clark says that their problems might not be over with and reveals that he has the package. That Morgan Edge.
And which is his blood.
Yes. So I believe they open it up at the barn.
This is one of the really great scenes.
Yeah. And they're like, holy shit, why does Lionel have this? Like, the doctor said that she wouldn't show it to anybody, which means she obviously lied. And why would Edge want it? And like, how much does Lionel actually know? And they kind of have this whole like kind of thing, and they're just.
I love the way they were testing to see if it was Clark's blood, like what they did with the kryptonite.
Oh yeah, that was awesome.
How it just started like
bubbling,
yeah,
like boiling. And I actually loved the like kind of. I was like, oh, what are they gonna do with this? And like Jonathan, like actually, it's kind of in the background. Like you see Clark moving around, and Jonathan's like several steps behind him, and just like turns and like whips it against the wall, shattering it. It's like not even a second thought. He's like, nope, this is gone. Gotta destroy this. And then this is, I believe, where we cut to Morgan Edge showing up at Lionel's office, and basically is like, this is when we get kind of the foreshadowing of events
that lead to the end of the season.
Yes. So basically, these guys are kind of frenemies. They have a deep history. We learn. Well, we don't really learn much. We just kind of it's
something implied about murder.
Yes, and that Morgan Edge is the only person that knows about it, but Lionel has the evidence.
So in case Morgan Edge tried to do anything, Lionel could flip it right back on him.
So he basically tells him, and he also reveals that he knew about it because he paid off Helen.
Yeah.
And so he basically says, like, oh, what do you think the plan was? So she sold it to me, and then you were going to steal it and sell it back to me again and split the money.
At a higher price.
Yeah. And he's basically like, you have 24 hours to get it back to me, or like, I'm going to have you get sent to jail.
Yeah.
And so then we get the Clark scene at the Talon, which is fine. Like, it's it's just a lot of like, I'm sorry. I know you're sorry. Like, I don't want to do this to you. I don't even know if I'm staying. And then we get the Lana goes into the back room and is crying while Clark looks on. I don't know. Is there anything you want to talk about in this scene, or I didn't think it was a bad scene, and I thought it was like necessary story wise, but I don't really think a whole lot goes on here.
Yeah, it's really not much. Like nothing much happens.
Yeah, compared to like the other scene at the end, I think is a little bit better than this. It's something I'm not particularly interested in, but I do think the other scene is better. But it does a good job of showing where Lana is, because the roles have kind of reversed in these 2 episodes with Lana and Clark, where she's the one pursuing Clark.
Yeah.
So from here, we cut to the mansion where Helen has come back. She has a bunch of shopping bags. And then Lex is basically like, hey. And they embrace. And she's like, oh, like, I want to tell a story that happened. And then she says the story that actually happened, which is that
she had Lionel's pilot killed, hired someone else, had his drink spiked or drugged, had the planes touch down on some place where she could be easily found.
No, that's the one at the end. So this is the first. This is the second story, which is when she says that she only had a sip and you had the whole glass. I tried to wake you, but you wouldn't wake up. The pilot was already gone, and so like I took the parachute. And she's like, in those moments, you think you're going to be braver than you are, but I guess like yourself will just kind of you do whatever you can to protect yourself, and basically like tells him that she still loves him. But if he wants, that they can annul the marriage, and that's kind of where we leave that scene. And then we go to the Kent farm, and Morgan Edge shows up with his...
First is this the first appearance?
Yes, this is the first appearance. So Edge shows up, and Clark's like, yeah, I don't have the thing. And Edge's like, I'm going to call the police.
Yeah, and then Clark rips the fucking door off, takes Morgan Edge... And it has his
guy puts the gun to Clark, and then Edge is like, "Oh, that's not gonna do anything," and tells him to put it down. And Clark just basically says, "Never come to Smallville again." And it's or else. And it's kind of like, from reading, people I guess read into it that he's pretending, but I felt like this was more of he was. Not that he's obviously not under the red kryptonite, but he's kind of like learning to let himself like not hold back as much, especially to somebody who kind of knows that version. So it's like a half pretending kind of thing, and it kind of ties into the stuff at the conversation with Lana at the end of the episode, where this is like part of him. And again, with the stuff with Lex that we'll get to, like this is him letting out a little bit of that darkness. I do think it's good, and him ripping off the door is like super badass.
Very.
And Edge has to leave with like his town car that's missing a door. So then Clark continues his apology tour and goes to Chloe and thanks her for not telling anybody. And Chloe basically tells him, you need to stop running away and face your demons. And that's kind of all we get in that scene. Then we get to Clark is packing up the truck, and Lex shows up, and Clark is like stunned. And Lex makes the joke of, being stuck on that island for 3 months was almost worth the look on your face right now. And basically they have this conversation, and they talk about where the line he says like, oh, when I was all by myself, like I still managed to find an enemy. I don't know if it was like the isolation or the malaria, but I ended up being rescued.
So, did the Morgan Edge's bald thug or henchman look familiar?
Yes. What is he from?
He's mainly a stunt guy, but he's been in stuff like he's been in X-Men Apocalypse, Star Trek Beyond, Supernatural. He was actually on The Flash and Arrow.
Oh, he's probably like one of those like stunt guys that does a lot of on-camera work, like where he gets to show his face.
Yeah, he on Arrow. He was in the episode Chains. It was the episode where Black Siren launches an attack on Star City.
Okay.
This was during when it was like the two teams against each other. When Caden James was ransoming money from Oliver.
Yes. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm sure he'll pop up and stuff again. Our next scene is the Chloe and Lana scene, which is basically the ramifications of Chloe lying. And she's like, Clark put this pressure on me and he's more comfortable. And this is like, Lana's like, oh, I wish he would confide in me. And Chloe's like, yeah, he's probably more comfortable confiding in me because he's not in love with me. And that's where that kind of ends. And then we go to the mansion where Helen is talking to Lex. And he basically is like, oh, why don't we go? I know it was messed up, and she's like packing up her stuff to give her to give him space. And he's like, well, instead, why don't we like try to actually do this honeymoon thing again? For real this time.
Yeah, and going back to the Clark Lex stuff, I just like the little Easter egg. Well, how like the line that Lex says, well, apparently fate has big plans for me.
Yes. And he ties into that again later on as well. And so from here, Clark goes back into the barn and he sees Edge. And
no. He says, Mom, Dad, and Morgan Edge answers.
Yes. And basically, so one of Edge's goons has Martha. She's tied up to like a post. And then Clark goes to move and Edge is like, no, and like points. And then the
Jonathan
other goon comes out of nowhere. Yeah, like throws Jonathan down and puts a gun to his head. He's like, I know you're fast, but you're not that fast. And he's like, I need the thing. And he's like, well, it's just like, kind of says that like they don't have it. And he's like, well, I need it. And he basically goes like, all right, fine. And goes into the toolbox and opens up the lead box, then pulls out a piece of kryptonite and carves into his wrist, which the putting into his wrist thing looks really terrible. It's obviously like he's just touching his wrist and they put like red dye. And then they cut away. But the natural blood effect, like whatever they used to make that blood look really good. Like it looked like blood. And he like bleeds into a mason jar. And Edge is like, what is this? And he's like, this is what you were looking for. And, it's obviously not the original, but this was what was in there. And he's like, well, if it's not, we'll have to see about this. And Edge like closes the bottle and leaves, but the thugs stay. And so I believe we next see the thugs are taping up the kryptonite to Clark's chest, and then
putting him in the truck, the moving truck.
I don't think they're putting him in the truck. Are they putting him in the truck now? Yeah, I think you're right. I think they're putting him in the truck, and then we cut to this is all kind of happening simultaneously.
Then Lana comes by.
Well, before Lana comes by, we have Lionel meeting with Edge. Edge has like the bag, and he like and Lionel looks at it and takes it to his car. And then this character has a name, but I don't think we've seen her yet. Dr. Tang. She takes like a thing and tests it on some like briefcase computer and confirms it. And Lionel's like, all right, we're all good. And as
this is the blood you're looking for.
Yes. And basically Edge is like, well, why did you just need the vial or whatever? It's like, oh, my source from before never gave me up like where it came from. And he's like, well, this isn't the sample that I stole from you. This is fresh from the source. And Lionel like kind of gives a smirk. And I believe this is where we cut to the Lex on the plane.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And this is where we find out what really happened. So they're sitting on the plane, it's in the air, and he's basically like, um, you know,
She takes a drink, he doesn't.
or she goes to take one and he puts his glass down so she doesn't. And he's basically like, I did my research. Where I landed, we did not have enough fuel to, where like the plane crashed, we didn't have enough fuel to get to. I saw that there was a plane that landed at St. Croix at 7:59. So you paid the pilot, you replaced my pilot with your own. You had him, I got drugged, he dropped you off, and then he bailed out of the plane, and he probably
didn't expect to have his not open or
yes,
not
his
operate.
parachute not operate, yes. So she basically is like, what's the sad, like, she's like, what's the sad thing is that the
reason he didn't get a bullet in his head is because she fell in love with him.
Yeah. So she pulls a gun on him. They wrestle away. The pilot gets shot because that always happens in these things.
Yeah, he gets the way that, I don't get how the trajectory of the bullet.
Yeah,
it
went
him.
Like, it went through his heart. Like, he gets shot like once, and I guess it's like a direct heart shot, and he like dies immediately because he's bleeding from the chest. And so Lex fights her off. He goes into the cockpit, goes into the co-pilot seat,
and he looks behind him, and she's gone.
And
she's
the door's open,
or yes. She's out the door. And so and then we go back to, or I just love this the following scene with him and Lionel.
Yeah, we're almost there. So
I can't wait.
While this is going on, you have simultaneously the thugs are driving Clark to the pier where Lionel and Edge are at the barn. Lana shows up. She gets brought into there. She does her kung fu moves that Lex taught her, then runs away. Martha trips the guy because only one of them is there. Only the racially ambiguous, I guess maybe he's black guy, is there. And then basically Lana
the credits are he's credited as Bald Thug.
Okay, Bald Thug, not Tattooed Thug. Tattooed Thug is with Edge. Bald Thug.
He's tattooed. He's credited as Blonde Thug.
Oh god. All right. So Bald Thug, basically him and Lana scuffle. He stumbles back and takes a pitchfork to the chest. So Lana
she should have killed him.
Yeah, he dies. Lana gets the Kents out. We cut back to the other scene, and the truck pulls up, and so it's Edge and Tattoo Guy, Lionel and his bodyguard, and they're like about stuff, and Lionel goes with his bodyguard to go check on it. Clark is tied up in there. He's able to, which for some reason in this episode, he's able to do a lot more when Kryptonite's around him than ever before.
Yeah.
Like, because he straight up pulls the tape off. Usually in all the other episodes, he's literally like almost catatonic. And he's able to pull the tape off and like throw it.
Yeah, he takes it, throws it to the back, to the front, or to
the truck. And for some reason, they put in their moving truck a propane tank from their, I guess, a grill or something. But there's like other things in there too that are flammable. But he blows up the truck.
And do you notice what he breaks to get the glass?
Oh, was it a picture?
Family photo.
Oh, the family photo from the previous one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he breaks that. He cuts the duct tape off of his hands. Yeah, and then he heat visions the propane. The truck blows up right as Lionel's getting close. They get thrown. Lionel's like, it's a goddamn setup. You're trying to kill me. Freaks out. Edge is like, no, I swear no. And they start a gunfight. Edge, Tattoo Guy gets shot up.
No. He starts it. He starts shooting at Lionel and Lionel's guy with him. Then Lionel's security guy shoots him, and he does a very bad death, or he dies in a very shitty way. And when I say shitty, I mean not perform well.
Yes. Yeah, and then
Morgan Edge gets shot and falls into the water, and we then see someone and a hand come up and a spark.
Yeah, Lionel gets taken away by his people, and then a hand starts pulling themselves up, and it's Clark. So
also, after Morgan Edge falls into the water, Lionel still actually is still concerned about Morgan.
Yeah, he keeps saying like, "Where's Morgan? Where's Morgan?"
Yeah.
Which will tie into later episodes. So Lex shows up at home. This is where we have the awesome conversation with him and Lionel.
Yeah, where Lionel's like, "You really think I don't have surveillance cameras on my planes?"
Yeah. So, and it's like, oh, it was a masterful move. And it's like, do you want my people to go look for her? He's like, no, I have somebody on it, but I don't think anyone is going to find her unless she wants them to. Which I believe she never comes back again.
Oh, no, she doesn't. She's gone.
So this is ex-wife number 2 for Lex.
Yeah.
In 3 seasons. So they have this awesome thing, and I believe he also, this is where he says, like, ask him if the offer still stands for him to run Luthor Corp with his father. And Lionel's like, are you sure about this?
He says that everything Lionel taught him helped him survive on the island.
Yes. And he knows that there's like a bunch more he can learn about him. And Lionel accepts. Lex looks like kind of happy, and Lionel's like really freaked out.
Yeah, and then there is the moment with the Kents and Lex next.
Yes. And this was actually a really good scene. So basically, they're finishing packing up, and Lex.
Can I say the lines?
Okay. Go through it.
Martha says, "You borrowed our farm." Lex says, "I put your names in the deed." Jonathan says, "We can't accept this." Lex says, "There's nothing to accept but my gratitude." Jonathan Kent says, "Lex, why is it like Lex? What do you mean?" Lex says, "After the plane went down, I made my way onto one of the broken wings. This compass, your wedding present, guided me to safe harbor. The least I can do is help you keep your farm." And Jonathan says, "We will find some way to pay you back." And Lex says, "I'm not worried about that, Mr. Kent. If it's not too presumptuous, I hope you just consider me part of the family." Which, god damn, is that a good way to pay off something in a previous episode?
Yeah, like those two scenes are so good because it sets up so much interesting stuff and pays off like stuff between Lex and Lionel, and then with the Kents and Lex. And Clark is just like ear to ear smile during that whole scene with the Kents.
And then there's a scene with Lana, right?
Yeah, so the final scene of the episode is Clark is hanging back up the sign that says Kent Farm. Lana shows up on the horse, and they have a conversation where basically he's like, yes, like, I want to put that behind me, but like what you saw was part of me. It's like,
actually the exact.
Okay, yeah, if you want to
He says, "Lana, last year I tried so hard to be the right guy for you, but the truth is I'm not." And Lana says, "Clark, you never had to try," and she rides off into the sunset.
Yeah, well, she also basically says, like, you should give me the chance to make my decision. And he's basically like, no, it's basically, and it's an annoying superhero trope, but it's the same thing we see in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies.
With him and Mary Jane.
Yeah, it's like you see it in everything where it's like the hero can't risk love because he doesn't want to put those that he cares about in harm's way.
It sort of dates back all the way to the Christopher Reeve Superman movie.
Yes. No, it goes all the way back to that because it's in the Batman movies, all of them. It's in all the other TV shows. I think it was like a big part of Lois and Clark as well. It's been a part of Flash, Supergirl, Arrow, like every single show and every single like superhero movie. It's always an aspect of it.
Well, I don't know about Arrow because
with like the whole thing with Felicity, yeah, he like breaks up with her for a while because he doesn't want to put her in danger.
Yeah, because I was about to say, like,
she knows from the jump. It's not that she doesn't know everything. It's that like
he doesn't want to risk it.
Yeah, they push the people they love away to keep them safe.
Because all of it, like prior to her, every single one of his love interests can just kick ass.
Mm-hmm.
Huntress.
Well, like it's actually kind of funny. It was like I watched that the Death of Superman movie and the Doomsday one. Like that's like actually the whole thing where part of the story is Superman wondering like if he should tell Lois, and he talks to Barry about it, and, and Barry's like, "What do you mean?" Like, yeah, I told her, but that's like what marriage is. You share things. Like, but yeah, like it's, and then yeah, like you were saying with Green Arrow, like both in the comics and in the show, like all of his love interests kick ass. Even which is a character most people probably forget. I think it was either season 1 or 2. Like he was dating that cop.
Yeah, Janina Gavankar, or
Yes.
however you pronounce her last name, who was in Battlefront 2.
Yeah, she was. She's famously in for like sports nerds. Is she was in The League, which is all the
Yeah.
people from yeah, 'cause she's Shiva Kamini.
Yeah. The name of that the
The trophy,
trophy
yeah.
is named after.
And but you had her, Huntress, Sarah, and Laurel, Felicity. The only one that really couldn't hold her own was probably the reporter, but he dated her for like a minute.
I don't think there was actually stuff with them.
No, they dated in the show.
No, I mean like it's. I don't think I've actually seen any scenes with them actually doing stuff like that.
Oh, in Arrow?
Yeah.
I think there was a time with him and Felicity where he kind of pushed her away. Well, basically, you could say like him going to jail was part of that, but it's that self-sacrifice to protect the ones you love, and you push them away.
Yeah.
It's less with him than any of the other characters. Like it happened in Flash, it 100% happened in Flash and Supergirl. Less so in Arrow, but yeah. But yeah, that kind of closes out these pair of episodes. I actually think it was good to just go through them together because it is a two-parter.
Also, I will say this. Smallville always has, like, every season, even season 8, has just, like, bangers for, like, return episodes. Another example being next season with Lois, season 5 with Zod.
Well, it's kind of something you have to do in order to get people.
No, I mean how strong they are.
Yeah, I mean, but like it's something you should do to make sure people stay with the show.
It's something that certain shows, I won't name any. Flash had issues with.
Yeah, there's problems, but I guess I wouldn't actually say like I think I don't even have like an MVP for these 2 episodes because I think everybody's kind of killing it.
Yeah, everyone's pulling their weight. Everyone's doing great things. No, actually, no. There are LVPs.
Oh, I'm saying I can't name an MVP because there's like everybody is awesome. Like Rosenbaum's awesome, Glover's awesome, Schneider's awesome, Welling is awesome, Annette O'Toole is awesome. Like even Kirk is awesome. I think in her like very limited scenes, she does a good job. Chloe's kind of whatever. I guess my weakest player in this is Helen.
No, there's a weaker one.
Who is that?
Tattoo Face.
Oh god, yeah, just for being Tattoo Face and his death.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and like Rutger Hauer, I think plays it great. Like his scene with Lionel is also awesome. Like I really dig like those scenes as well.
And do you remember the scenes like where or the like the stuff with him this season?
Yes, I remember the story.
No, I mean, do you remember the actor, like the way he spoke and everything? Because actually, it was a pretty good job. The way they
the other one? No, I don't remember it.
He actually sounds. You can. It's sort of like the whole regeneration thing with Doctor Who.
Oh, what's funny is I feel like this Morgan Edge character is literally what like they saw to put Rutger Hauer in Batman Begins, because he's kind of playing the same character, just like more white collar version.
Yeah,
which I don't even remember what the name of that character is.
That's a good question.
I feel like was it Powers? Because I think Powers is like one of those characters as well.
Earl. I mean, that's...
Yeah, I guess like he basically, they could have made him Morgan Edge, or they could have made him, I can't remember what Powers was. I'm not talking about like not, what was his name? He was more of like a Batman guy, I think. All right. Well, I think that just about wraps us up. Quick round of plugs. Me and Alan also do another podcast every Thursday on this channel, which is Legion of Tune, where we, or not Legion Tune, which is And Now Comics, where we talk about comics with John Seiler and Connor McGraw, and sometimes
Connor Irving.
Yeah,
sometimes Connor McGraw.
Yes. And hopefully a bunch of other people. We also have every Thursday, as part of the Los Horror podcast empire, we do Legion of Tune with the two of us, sometimes Gary Gilmore, sometimes John Seiler, and where we talk about everything animated. We should be finishing up the first half of season 3 of Young Justice this week. And
I got I can't believe I got spoiled by a
I have
YouTuber. I got spoiled about a certain character from season 2 who something happened to them. He's a speedster.
Oh, well, don't spoil me. I haven't watched them yet.
I won't.
And you also do a podcast.
I record that in about 4 hours. 4 hours from now. Lasar Games podcast. We passed 1,000 plays. All the total plays, despite, or even though we're sitting at 15 episodes of the actual show, and I have 3 LPs I'm doing. Star Trek Evolution, Saturday Morning Yu-Gi-Oh!, and my playthrough of Telltale's Walking Dead. So look forward to that.
All right. So we will catch you guys next week. I'm Lou Gonzalez.
I'm Alan Muir, and this podcast stands for truth, justice, and the American way.